everybody, it's Lisa here from Pro Writing Aid. Thanks for being here today. I can see everybody coming in. If you can see me and hear me, just to make sure that everything is working, can you drop your name and your location into the chat box so that I know that everything is functioning okay? Listen, Grace from the Philippines. Hi, Grace. Theodore is back again. Deep's in Vancouver, Rebecca in Virginia, Lynette in Idaho. We've got lots of people here today. Okay, I hope everybody's come prepared with their log lines. So just before we begin, I'm going to drop a couple links in the chat box here. So this will just give you, actually, I'll wait for everyone to stop adding their information. Okay, I'm going to drop a couple of links. So that's where you can find out about all of our upcoming webinars. We've got lots coming up between now and the end of the year. We're about to start a new monthly session. For those of you that have been coming to our monthly book doctor sessions or monthly sessions with AJ for business writing, we've got a new one that's starting in December, on December 11th, I think, called Self-Editing School with Joanna, with Joellen from First Editing, and she's going to do really practical teaching on how to do a really great self-edit. And so once a month, it'll be like the other sessions that we do. She'll just choose a topic and go deep into it so everybody can build their editing school or their editing skills as we go along. So for those of you that were here last time, we had Jeff as our guest. You may remember that we tried to do some live workshopping of the Loglines, and it was really popular, and we ended up with about 50 people sharing their Loglines with us, and we only managed to get through about 10. And so because everyone had requested it, we've decided to follow up on that. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop one more link to a replay of the really in-depth session that we did last time. I'm just going to drop it right here. I think I've misspelled it. Anyway, so tonight, Jeff is just going to do a bit of a review compared to what he did last time. So just for anyone that wasn't here last time, I just wanted to introduce Jeff really quickly. So Jeff has been working for more than 25 years in the publishing and entertainment industries. He's an author, he's a screenwriter, and he's also a story development consultant. His books, Anatomy of a Premise Line and Rapid Story Development, have helped tons of authors on their way to becoming a published author. So Jeff, thank you for coming back again.
My pleasure. This is always so much fun. Thanks for having me back.
No problem. So what we're going to do for the people that weren't here last time, Jeff is just going to do a quick 10-minute overview of his logline development process. For anybody that wasn't here last time, go in afterwards and watch his last session because he goes really deep, and it's quite a clever process that he puts everything through, all of his log lines. And so there's a lot in there to it. But today we're just going to do a quick rundown of it. And then we're going to choose 4 or 5 log lines to go really deep into, like a bit of a deep dive analysis. And then at the end, we're going to try and get through as many log lines just for quick feedback, quick 5-minute, quick fire feedback at the end. So we'll try and get through as many as we can, but if we don't get through everyone, then I hope you'll forgive us. Jeff, do you want to share your screen for your quick review?
Yes.
And while he's getting that set up, if anybody that brought their log line along, if you want to drop them in the chat, then we've got them there. The chat works better for us. Usually I ask everyone to put everything in the Q&A, but if you can put it in the chat, that's the best place for us to copy and paste from when it comes to reviewing them. Okay, I'm going to go quiet for a few minutes. Jeff, take us through your quick review. Oh no, Jeff, are you frozen?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there, I've got you.
It says my connection is unstable. It says, hopefully we'll be able to get through.
Yeah, if you want to turn off your video of you, that might take up a bit less bandwidth, and because we're just going to be looking at slides anyway.
A good idea.
Okay.
as much as this can feel like really bad speed dating, we we will actually get into some real nuts and bolts here, and you're going to see a very interesting process. For those of you who have been through the blog post that explained the machine here a little bit, or the longer webinar, you're going to recognize a few of these slides. But for those of you who don't know a logline from a steak sandwich, this is at least the beginning that you can begin to see what this is about. Watch the webinar, look at the other videos I've done on this so that you can get a better handle on why this is a critical tool for screenwriters for sure, but novelists absolutely as well. And this is something you really want to learn how to do, because it's your foot in the door with agents, editors, etc. Okay. And there's a lot of misconceptions about what this logline thing is and how to do it. So first, let me just talk very briefly about the 7 most common mistakes people make when they're doing a logline or trying to come up with one of these things. The first one is they mistake it for a hook, okay, which is when you read, we'll probably see this in our webinar today. We'll probably see a lot of these in the webinar today. But the hook is the hook. It's the high concept. It captures the thing that really grabs you when you first hear about it. It doesn't really tell you the story. The one that I like to use a lot is, a couple walks into a rural town and discovers the town's run by aliens. Okay, that's the hook. That's the high concept. Doesn't tell you anything about the story. You don't know if it's a horror movie. You don't know whether it's a thriller. You don't know whether it's a comedy, but it hooks you. There's something there that immediately grabs you. Okay, loglines are not that. Loglines are more than that. Loglines are the essence of your story, but not getting into the gory details. And you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about when we break some of these out. So they're not hooks. The other mistake people make is they fall into platitudes, using a lot of very standardized kinds of memes, like the hero on the knight in shining armor comes over the hill, things like that. And you'll see some of those phrases we all see all the time that have become memes, but don't and suggest things, but don't tell you anything. Those are problems in loglines, because you got to cut to the chase. The other problem, people fall back on authorial intrusion. Will our hero really succeed? Gee, what's going to happen next? Let's see. Those literally, people do those sorts of things. As soon as you start talking like the person who's writing the logline to the reader, you pull them out and you've intruded as the author. You don't want to have any of those kinds of questions or questioning going on in your logline. One of the biggest things people do is they explain. If you look at pitch lines that editors get, they will throw them out into the round file after about 2 or 3 lines if you start off your pitch with all this backstory or all this explanation about the connective tissue that you think they have to understand before you can really tell them the story. They front load stuff, all the exposition, and they explain, and they don't ever talk about what's actually happening in the story. We're going to see that for sure. Another thing is people don't leverage language. If you're writing a thriller, then the logline has to have thrilling words. Use language to help convey the genre and the tone. Okay, so that comes after you figure out what's the content of the logline. But you want to leverage language to your advantage. The other thing people do, they don't ever get to the good stuff. They're always biting around the edges, holding back. Okay, it's like you will see sometimes people at the end of their loglines will say, and then a really cool thing happens at the end. No, tell the person what's going on. You want spoilers in your loglines. Okay, so don't hold back. You want to give them the meat. Okay, and the biggest thing, and we can't get into this here, unfortunately, because this is a whole other webinar, a whole other topic, is people think loglines are premise lines. This is what my book, Anatomy of a Premise Line, is all about. Premise lines are the entire structure of your story in 1 or 2 short sentences. You actually tell your whole story in a premise line or a couple of sentences. And that's not what you do with a log line. And people think these two are interchangeable. They are not. Okay. So these are the common errors, and we're going to see a bunch of these for sure. Okay. Here's the machine. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take your pitch and we're going to walk it through this machine. You literally, you know, there are things in the creative writing world, tools that you will use that will in fact be cookie cutter-ish. I'm opposed to cookie cutters. I don't like formulas, blah, 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 even though I teach a lot of very procedure heavy things. It's because you have to approach them in that way in order to get the job done. This is one of them. This is literally a machine. You want your log line to be written in this order with these pieces. And we're gonna use this little template on your pitches to show you where those components are. These are the things you want pretty much in narrative order as you say your log line. The hook will be implicit in your log line if you write it properly. Okay, so this is what we're going to be working with very intimately. 2 warnings. No one's going to walk away with a log line today. This is not a bait and switch, honestly. The log line isn't something you sit down and do in 5 minutes. It takes time because you've got to do this strategy. First, you figure out whether you've got your story structure pieces. Then you've got to wordsmith it and tweak it to get it to work with tone and genre. Nail those things. And then you got to cut it down. Then you got to cut it down. Then you got to cut it down to 2 to 2.5 lines max. Okay. That takes time. What we're going to focus on is the first bullet. Do you have the structure pieces to actually make this thing work? That's where you want to spend the lion's share of your effort. Okay. So the warning is that's what you're going to walk away with today more than anything else, to find out whether you're in the right wheelhouse, first of all, and then are the structure pieces there? And part of this process sometimes tells you that you have more work to do on the development side before you do your logline. I used to think, and I think I said this in my original webinar here, was that it doesn't matter when you do your logline. You can kind of do it anytime you want. I don't think that anymore. I'm pretty convinced now that you must have your premise line figured out, which means you've got to have the core structure elements of your story figured out before you do your logline, because there's so many key structure elements that are in the logline. And if you don't know what those are, and we're going to see that probably here, people are going to go, well, I really haven't thought about that. So then you got to go back to the drawing board. You've got to go back and do your basic development work. One of my basic credos is develop first, write second, which is totally the opposite of what you learn in most creative writing programs. It's like write, because that's what writers do. Write. The story will tell itself. No, it will not. That never happens. So develop first, write second. This is part of that development process. Okay. So I just want to set you up so that you're not being set up for failure here. Okay. So this is the strategy that you will use once as you guys work on this with me, will get you at a place where you're going to feel like, okay, I've got the pieces I need. Then you can take this through the strategy and develop this yourself in fairly rapid time and feel pretty confident you're going to be a lot stronger than you were otherwise. Okay. So that is that.
Okay, great.
Now let's start. Now let's start, and then we'll.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of log lines here. Thank you everyone for sharing. These are really great. There's one that I thought maybe we could start with. I'm just going to send it to you. Can you see that, Jeff? I feel like this is one of those ones. It's really intriguing, but I feel like the structure isn't quite right. So it might be a good one to start with to look at how to turn.
Is it in the chat?
Yeah, I've just put it in the chat just to you. It starts with in an icy desert of northern Greenland. If you could scroll right to the bottom, I've just sent it to you.
Got it. All right, let me share again.
So Natalie, that's yours. Natalie, do you want to come on and have a chat? Let me find you. All right, Natalie, are you there? Natalie, can you hear me? So I've just invited you to talk. So if you turn off your, oh, maybe I can promote a panelist. All right, Natalie, can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for sharing this with us.
Yay.
You may not be saying that in a minute. Who will say?
No. I'm open to criticism.
No. I'm not going to be hard on anybody. Honestly, I'm a very nice person. Okay, let me just read this real quick. So in a 19 Northern Greenland, young woman with a traumatic past. Okay, there's platitude. Okay, that says a lot, but doesn't tell us anything. Okay, stumbles upon a portal and lands herself and her international team in a world ruled by magic, where humans are viewed as primitive beings and compulsive liars. In her struggle to get back, she faces armed soldiers, the rigid and confusing rules of a magic kingdom, and an ancient threat to both their worlds. Okay. Not really a platitude, but way too high level. You gotta be more specific. When she develops magical powers of her own, she must decide between her familiar life on Earth and this strange but amazing world. Her choice, she gets both. Okay, so you got a little bit of the machine going here for sure. This is excellent, really good. So now let's start drilling down. Okay. So where does the story take place? In Northern Greenland or in?
It starts out in Northern Greenland at like an archaeological dig, and it continues in a different world, and they just go back and forth during the.
So they do go back and forth. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to convey that here in this. So you want to convey in the log line that there's going to be multiple worlds. So 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 here you would go a little out of order. You would say what is she? I mean, why is she stumbling upon portals? I mean, what's going on?
Well, it's an archaeological dig, and they find something that was like basically hidden under ice. So it has been hidden for hundreds of years, probably longer, because it's a very remote location. And she sees something in there that nobody else does, and she doesn't know why.
Okay, so she's an archaeologist.
No, she's not, but she has she gets a summer job to keep paperwork for the archaeological group.
Okay, so how old is she? Is this a YA novel?
No, she's a college student, so she's an adult, like 21, 22.
Okay, so new adultish. Okay, but okay, so okay, what is she going to learn about herself in this story? Why does it matter that she's caught between worlds?
Well, it has to do a lot with her self-confidence, because she starts out with a very low self-confidence. She doubts herself at every step, because she's dealing with basically with the aftermath of an assault. And she's trying to also hide it from her teammates, because for one, it's awkward. For two, she doesn't want to be judged on her past.
She's judging herself because she was assaulted?
Well, no, but she's second guessing every step because of what happened to her.
Why?
Because she still has nightmares and panic attacks, and it kind of hinders
What was the assault?
everything. She was assaulted by basically a stalker, and she ended up in a hospital.
Okay. And what was the conclusion she came to as a result of that attack?
Well, there were several there. Well,
See, this is a very important issue of everybody's story about your protagonist.
Well, she does want to get better, and she's still struggling with some of the effects, because she still occasionally gets nightmares and panic attacks. But she's determined to get better, and she's determined to not let it like hinder her. But she kind of has to like put a brave face to like for the rest of the world, because she doesn't want she doesn't want many people to know whatever happened to her in the past.
Why? What is she afraid they're going to think? There's a reason why we're focusing on. There's a reason why we're focusing on this.
Well, she considers it a weakness.
Okay. So, okay. I mean, this is very common. This is what happens with people who get attacked. Okay.
Yes.
It's what is wrong with me that I was so stupid that I got beat up.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes. You put it very
Yeah.
succinctly.
Yeah. So this is called the moral component. Okay. This is the thing. And this is every one of you who are writing a novel or a screenplay that has a protagonist. We're all told, make sure they're flawed, make sure they've got a problem, make sure that they're struggling against some internal thing, right? But nobody tells you what the hell it is or how you get it. Okay. This is something I talk about big time. In fact, let me just pitch something right now. It's free. It's on my Amazon page. It's Rapid Story Development ebook number 5 on the moral premise. It's free. Please get it, read it, because it explains what this thing is and how you find it for your character. It drives the middle of your story, of your book. It's the motivation for why your character is doing anything they're doing in the story. But they don't know it because they're kind of blind to it. Okay. So what's happened here is something that's bitten her again, quote unquote. In other words, this isn't something that just happened to her in terms of her thinking she's weak. This is something she's probably battled all her life. Okay.
Well, about a year, give or take.
Well, I would suggest you want to give her this problem before the story even started.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
Okay.
the way it's like
So
it
this
starts
is
about like yeah.
This is her little secret. Don't look at me.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm weak. Okay. But she doesn't consciously know it. Okay. It's the thing that she came to make sense of a crazy world, and now dictates how she's going to act in that world. I'm weak. So how does that self-belief express itself in terms of the external behavior in the world? What does she do in the world to protect herself from being seen as being weak? Does she come on too strong? Does she sit in the background and a wallflower? What's her strategy for hiding?
Well, she actually tries to act as normal as possible, but she does have trouble trusting people. So and she reacts a bit extremely to physical touch. So she kind of startles when people like tap her on the shoulder.
Okay, so she's intimate averse.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay, that's her strategy then. So one of the things you want to think about in the story is how she actually is going to do that in behaviors. Being reactive that way is one behavior, but you need to come up with some more so that it's not repetitive. But we've got a very clear thing here. So the way you want to start this is a skittish, fearful archaeological dig intern. So there's a lot of words there. Here, let me. So, skittish, fearful, my spelling is going to be all wrong, so don't even worry.
That's fine. That's fine. You're doing great so far.
Intern finds herself in this world. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Greenland, that's all. Okay, so she finds herself in that world. Okay, so you want to start it off with her, and then she finds herself caught. Okay,
So
she's
caught between two worlds, or like in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Caught between a world of magic and Greenland. Okay, you want to use a different world than Greenland, like the normal world or something. So,
okay.
So immediately we know kind of who it is, who's the protagonist, what's her issues. She's fearful, she's skittish. Okay, we don't have to get into the gory details here, just that we know she's got a thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And she's caught between a magical world and this world. Okay, and now what, you've got a lot of things she's up against. What's the main thing what's the adventure? What's the main line of this story?
Oh, okay.
This is going to be hard. You've got to really kind of hunker down and focus, and not get sidetracked by soldiers and the rules and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so there's something that they find in Greenland that probably not for sure, but probably jumpstarts her powers, and that's how she actually discovers the portal. And when they get to that new world, they find out why this portal on the Earth side was abandoned, because the other world actually trapped a monster on the Greenland side.
Okay, is that monster going to be revived?
No, the monster is dead. It's been like hundreds of years, and they actually find proof of that the monster is dead.
Okay, so when they go to Greenland, when they go to the magical world,
mm-hmm.
what's the threat?
Well, they are considered the threat because humans were not supposed to be able to open the portal, and since they can open the portal, so can the monster, because the other side doesn't know that the monster is dead.
Okay, but if the monster's dead, the monster's not a threat.
But they don't know it, because there was a reason that they sealed the portal, like against the monster, and somehow the humans managed to open it.
Okay, but first thing they're going to do on the other side, on the magic side, is go, "Oh my God, the portal's open, the monster!" And they're going to go, "What monster?"
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so they're going to know. They're not stupid.
Well, the other side is kind of like a little on a secretive side, and like they also don't want to reveal too much to the humans, because humans are primitive, and humans lie all the time.
How advanced is this place?
Well, I would say like architecture-wise, clothing-wise, and probably like tradition-wise, medieval Europe. But technology-wise, they don't use technology; they use magic, so they can pretty much do anything they want.
Okay, all right.
They have they would have indoor plumbing and like hot and cold water and stuff like that.
So what is her goal? What does she want to do?
Well, her initial goal is she wants to get herself and her team back, because she considers it her fault. If it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have ended up there.
But now you're saying they're going back and forth. Do they go back and forth a lot?
At first, no, but it takes a bit of convincing, and there's a whole lot of other things going on. But they work out a deal with the other side, that they help each other out.
Okay, is this written? Is this book written?
Almost. I'm actually in the last chapter.
Okay. This is one of the difficult parts of this, especially when somebody's written the book, You have so much minutia in your head.
I know, and trying to like distill the very, very basic.
We end up paying, we have to do 20 questions, and
That's all right.
But what I'm hearing is I'm seeing some structure challenges here, just in general. If they're going back and forth between worlds, unless both worlds are switching, unless it's like Outlander, where she's going back and forth, through the stones, right? But you've got characters who are all consistent between worlds. And so how often is she going to be going back and forth across the portal?
Probably a few times.
Okay. Over the course of the middle of the story. But if she can go through the portal, why can't the rest of the team go through the portal?
Because they basically being held by the other side until until they clear up the whole thing with the monster.
Okay, well, this monster thing's really confusing to me, but
well, okay, the monster is actually turns out to be a dragon. They find a scale of a dead dragon.
So does she have to prove the monster is dead before they can come back? Or
well,
what role does this dragon play?
Well, the dragon, they have like they're like one of the dominant races in the New World, and they have a very complicated relationship with the kingdom where the humans end up.
That doesn't answer my question at all.
Okay, let me try.
What role does the dragon play in the story? It
kind of jumpstarts the whole magic line, because that's for one, it's the entire.
Okay, but if it doesn't impact the mainline story,
it actually does. I just
How?
don't know how to explain it.
Because it's critical. You've got to be able to identify that in your premise line. Okay, we're getting caught up in so much minutia. It's really hard to get to the core of what's going on here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm worried we're running a little bit out of time. So do you have a few exercises that you can give?
What I would suggest you do, and this is going to be incredibly difficult.
Okay.
Is you need to take your story, and you need to identify the main line story. Okay, without all the noise.
Okay.
You don't want to know about what's going on with the soldiers. You don't want to know what's going on with, but I still don't know who the main opposition in this is. There's got to be somebody who's trying to stop them, or trying to get them to leave, or who's the one who's in charge of taking over and capturing everybody. Who is that? Why are they doing that? How is she going to be put into a position where she has to make this terrible choice?
Okay.
And just write that out with none of the distraction about the other storylines and the rules and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Now, problem is, this is the police investigating itself. Okay, because this is you're the writer. This is your story. So,
no. It's actually really helpful, because I was really struggling with that part.
Yeah, you've got to find. I want to know what it is she wants. What she wants is to get the team saved.
Yes.
Okay, so, from whom? Not just the people over there. There's got to be a person, an opponent. And then the decision. Clarify what this choice is. What are at stake? What are the stakes? Being lost there forever and losing her other world? I mean, I have no idea what the stakes are. Okay? All right, so this is a great example of, especially for novelists, you guys have these complex, interwoven, multiple storylines going on, and you don't have the skill set necessarily in place yet. It can be learned to know what's essential and what isn't. Everything's important, but you've got an A-line story, all of you. If you can't identify it, you cannot do a log line. You can't do a premise line. You're going to be drowning in the story woods talking about minutia. Okay, this is an incredibly important skill set for writers as you're developing stories, because it saves you from getting lost in the story woods. Okay.
Yes. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
great.
It's really, really
Thank you.
helpful.
Thank you. I mean, you were brave to hang in there.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay, I've got another one that's quite different. I'm going to go try a different genre this time. So not, we're going to do the one that's placed in Central Oregon. So I'm just sending it to you, Jeff. And there's not a name here, but it says LJ Wright.
Oh yeah, set in. Okay, got it. Okay, let's see what happens here.
Okay. All right, LJ Wright. I've just clicked asking you to unmute. Okay, are you there?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for
Hi.
sharing.
Hi, it's Linda, by the way. I didn't know it would come
Linda,
across
okay.
that way. So just Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Linda. Okay, let me read this
Hello.
real quick. Set in modern day Central Oregon. Okay, there's our world, very clear. A woman with trust and abandonment issues. Okay. Begins to forge a precarious relationship with her stepmother. But when her world is shaken by an extraordinary revelation and family secrets, she's challenged to decide between risking her heart and losing the only family she has left. All right, this is terrific.
Wow, thank you.
No, it's very vague. Okay.
Yes.
So the only job we have here is to take these generic phraseology and get specific.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, what's her trust issue?
Well, she doesn't trust people loving her, is basically what's wrong, because she was abandoned as a child from her mother, by her mother,
Okay.
excuse me.
Okay. I'm going to interrupt you a lot here. So, because I want to get to this moral thing. Okay. So she was abandoned by her mother. What was the conclusion she came to about why she was abandoned? I was abandoned by my mother because I'm really ...
Yeah, not lovable.
Okay. What about her isn't lovable?
Basically, her entire personality is where I am with that. I know it needs to be more specific than that, but her mother basically just doesn't accept anything about her. So she was only just a little girl. So I'm not sure how to develop that. So
Okay.
more specific.
I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you a quick example from another student that I've had.
Okay.
Because this is what happens when you really, because you did exactly the right thing here. You were getting down to the blind spot. Okay. That horrible dirty little secret about themselves. I'm not lovable. It feels generic. It's a good one. You can go with it. It'll work, but it'd be great if you could get more specific. An example, another student of mine came up with one. My character, after we're going through this, doesn't feel good enough. Right? Okay,
Right.
You got it. Doesn't feel good enough. But it felt too generic to me. So I could, let's get under that hood. What about her isn't good enough? And then we talked, and then some keywords slipped out of her mouth that then made it really clear that she was a scaredy cat, she said. And it was very clear. It was like, okay, she's not good enough because she's a coward.
Okay, if I tell you this part, it may or may not be helpful, but there's actually nothing her mother doesn't like about her, but as it turns out, it's not her mother. And so it's not her birth mother. And so basically the birth mother never took to her, never really opened her heart to this
Does
child.
she know this?
She's going to in the story. She doesn't know it in the beginning. It's a revelation that comes on later, where she discovers she was adopted and her birth mother is actually her stepmother. So
Okay.
But neither her nor the stepmother know.
Yeah, you're going to have to think but a kid is not going to,
Know
draw,
that, right?
yeah, the kid's not going to know that. So they're going to draw a conclusion that I'm bad, I'm wrong, whatever it is. So right
Gotcha.
now you can just go with I'm not lovable. Okay.
Okay.
No matter what, I'm not lovable.
Right.
You also have a belonging thing going on here, which is also strong. Okay. So a woman who feels unloved, unlovable, begins to forge a precarious relationship with her stepmother. Is the stepmother the person who's going to be in the story with her more than anyone else?
Yes.
Okay, so this story is about these two women.
The main, yeah, the main portion of the story is about these two women, and of course there's a romantic element involved, but yes, it's mostly a women's fiction on these two women and their relationship and where it goes.
Okay, so what is the challenge she's facing? What is her goal? What does she want? Anything particular in the story? What's her goal?
She actually wants to be able to open her heart to be loved. She doesn't want to be so closed off like she is. She wants a mother figure.
Writing secret number one.
Okay.
when it comes to character goals, they need to be tangible. They can't be, I want to be one with God, I want to have an open heart. Those are too abstract.
Okay.
How do you show that? What are you going to, how do you show oneness with the universe?
Wanting a mother, do you think, would that be something considered tangible, or is that still a bit, abstract?
Well, I mean, is that a logical goal for a grown woman?
That's true.
Yeah, so she needs to want something. She needs to want the guy, or she needs to want the girl, or she needs to want the money, or, not to be too crass about it, but there needs to be some reason. This stepmother is pushing her away. Why is she trying to forge a relationship with her? To what end?
Actually, the stepmother's not pushing her away. The real mother is. Who she thinks is her real mother has pushed her away. The stepmother's always wanted to be part of her life, but she refuses to open up to her until her father dies, and that's where the story begins.
Okay. So we have to know. So what's the challenge for her in this book? What is she overcoming?
The protagonist.
But what's the
well
threat?
I mean, it's intangible, what she's overcoming, like what you said, though. It's just,
then how are you going to sell this book?
I don't know. I mean, we're getting tripped up right there on that.
This is part of the danger of doing this.
No, it's good though.
No, it is. It's very good because it shows you as a writer where you're not digging deep enough into your story structure to hold your readers. Because the reader's going to get very, very frustrated with ephemera of characters who are leaves on the wind getting pushed by events and not driving events, or they're too passive and they don't really know what they want, but they kind of want this, but you're going to lose your reader, so if it's a women's focused novel, then she's going to want something related to that, right? There's got to be something. What's the extraordinary revelation driving this?
Well, to me, the extraordinary revelation was the finding out that her stepmother, who's been in her life most of her life, her and her stepmother discovered that she's actually the biological mother. The stepmother had a baby and was told the baby died. And they live in the same town. It happens that this baby was adopted by her current mom and dad. But so the stepmother, and nobody knows this revelation except the dead father and the mother who abandoned the family. So it's a revelation for the protagonist.
Okay, so you have a mystery here.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, she doesn't know she's adopted for a long time either, so it all kind of happens at the climax.
You just dropped the bomb here. Okay, so
Okay.
that's that. Now I know what the story is. This is a woman who's uncovering her past.
Yes.
Okay, so she's got to slowly, incrementally get the clues that will lead her to, you know who,
True.
and then that's the end of the story with the big blowout.
So
where-
even though she doesn't know that this stuff yet, she's uncovering a past without realizing.
Exactly. She can't know specifically who, but she's going to learn about the circumstances.
Okay.
And it's about how this changes her over the course of that investigation, and how the people who are at the end of that investigation are going to try to sabotage her from getting the truth because it's too painful.
Yeah.
That's your story.
Okay.
I will bet you money, all the money in my pockets with all the money in your pockets. That's the story. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does make sense. Yes.
Okay. That's what this premise line has to convey. Okay.
Okay.
So who, just real quick, who raised her?
Well, her father raised her until basically she was like 8, if I'm recalling correctly. And then the father remarries. But basically the father raises her. The mother's in another country, has little contact. So the father raises her with this stepmother coming along.
Who does she think is her mother at the beginning of the story?
Yeah, she thinks that the ex-wife now, or the one who abandoned her when she was 6, she believes that's her mother. That's what she's told, that's her mother. So she's abandoned by her mother is what she believes. Yes.
Okay. And then she discovers there's some other whole other person involved in this.
Right. Then later, way later, she discovers the stepmother.
Okay.
And her both discovers
that's what she's got to discover over the course of the middle of the story is
right.
Keeping this together.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yes.
You're not going to be able to write a log line until you have your investigation figured out.
Okay.
Is this written?
Yes, I'm actually written the whole first draft, and I was starting the process of editing, or the second writing, whatever.
Perfect.
Okay.
I think you've got a serious rewrite here, but I think you've got a very clear story here.
Okay.
That will be very compelling. And I'm not saying what you have isn't, but I in very short order after you drop that little bomb, now the pieces just fell into place. I was like, oh, that's what she's doing. That's what's going on here. And
well, I'm not sure how to add that. Oh, you said I can't do the log line yet. Anyways, okay.
Yeah, you can't. I don't see how you can do the log line until you figure out how these people are going to fit together at the end and what the revelation, that the final revelation is going to come out. And then the choice she has to make is whether to accept or reject them.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Is there going to be a healing here, or is she going to realize, I don't need them, I'm enough?
No, that was, yeah, that's true. I hadn't really thought of that. But
that's a biggie. Yeah. That's a biggie. This all has to lead to some emotional change. So that's kind of wide open here in terms of what can happen. It could be a real feel-goody kind of thing with, everybody hugging, or it can be her just saying, screw you, you dysfunctional so-and-so. I'm going off and living my life. Okay. So there you go. Those are all the pieces. So when you go back and listen to this, there's a lot of gems here in terms of helping direct you in terms of how I think you have to restructure the middle of this to make it more engaging.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to re-listen to this because some of it's going one ear and out the other just because it's stressful.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to take it in this sort of situation.
But thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. That's great.
This is one of the biggest things about this process of why I say you've got to do your premise line first, because when you don't know what the structure of your story is,
right,
you're going to get into these blind spots when you have to actually figure out how you're going to sell to somebody. This is a marketing tool here. This is a marketing tool.
It's true. I mean, like I thought I knew all of that until you break it down and realize, oh, wait a minute. I guess there's some big holes.
Yeah. No, but that's the magic of this whole process. That's exactly what happened last time when we were going through them, is that distilling makes you really realize what's missing.
But I want you to see that what you did here was absolutely correct. I mean, you've got the pieces. but they're
Okay.
so undefined that I don't know what the story is.
Okay.
But you
All right.
got the idea. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I think so. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, good. I've got another one here. So I'm just trying to choose ones that are all quite different. And I recognize some of them from last time when we did them. So we'll have a quick look at those afterwards to see how they've grown in the time since our last one. But Jeff, I'm just going to send you another one. So this is the one that starts a desperate single mom soured on marriage. And it's DJPSY is the first one. I'm going to add you here. Okay.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that.
Oh gosh, thank you. Yeah.
A desperate single mom soured on marriage weds an unlikely hero, there's a platitude, to save her ailing daughter and finds a second chance at love. But when her husband is implicated in her daughter's disappearance, she must race against
time. If this is
time.
your log line, I'm just clicking ask to unmute. You should have something that comes up that
DJ?
tells you to.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, you're there. Okay. Great. Hi, what's your name?
Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
Deborah.
Thanks for
Deborah.
sharing. Great.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Okay. So we got some good elements here. This is and it's nice and concise too, so not a lot of confusion. A desperate single mom, soured on marriage. What's her desperation?
Her daughter has a heart condition, and she thought she had more time to save up to pay for an operation, but her daughter had an episode, and the doctor said she needs surgery sooner rather than later.
And so it sounds like she's marrying some guy who's going to be able to save her daughter.
She's marrying someone who is going to put her and her daughter on his insurance to help her pay for the operation.
Okay. So
The
she is.
father died, and she's marrying his best friend.
Okay. So she is. Well, what? It doesn't sound like the world here is very important, but what's the world?
She's a nurse. It's
So she's a-
contemporary
Okay.
romance.
So okay. So she's a nurse. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So a mom who's okay. Okay. Let's see here. Hold on. A desperate single mom soured on marriage. What was the sour?
Well, her fiance died before they got married, and
So
and left her, alone with a child.
so she
And
so
in her pursuit to get money, she had a suitor who had proposed, but then he withdrew the proposal because he realized she may be in love with somebody else, the friend that she's marrying. If that makes sense.
but how? Okay. So is she sour on marriage because a guy died or because somebody jilted her?
Well, both now.
Okay. But what's the sour? What is the conclusion she came to about marriage?
That she wasn't meant to get married. Instead of desperate, maybe I was going to go with self-reliant, because now she realizes as a single mom, she has to rely on herself.
But she's not.
Okay. But she does all of these things. She tries to get a higher paying job. She doesn't. She tries to sell the house she's living in. She can't because it was in her fiance's name. She goes to his aunt to try and get the deed transferred to her name, but the woman dies before that happens.
Okay. So she's trying to be self-reliant and she's failing miserably.
Yes.
Yeah. So that can't be it. So she's slowly driven to the point where I've got to do something I really don't want to do, but it's for a greater good. Correct? Right.
And then her friend offers to marry her.
Oh, so this is somebody she knows.
Yes. It's her dead fiance's best friend.
Okay, let's that's a little clearer. Okay. Finds a second chance at love. What does that mean?
The love of her life died and she marries his best friend. She thought it was a marriage of convenience and they end up falling in love.
Okay, so she marries the friend of her dead fiance.
Yeah.
To get something out of him, not out of love.
Right.
And then finds herself falling in love with him.
Yes.
Does he know she's using him?
Kind of, sort of, but he offered because he's always had a crush on her.
Okay. So where in the story, how much of this is written?
Just about 100 pages.
Excellent. Less is more. Okay, so in your mind, how far into the story do we go before she starts going, this guy might actually work out?
About 3/4 of the way through. They just get married at the end of Act 1.
Okay. Okay. So the middle of the story is going to be about her refusing love.
Okay. Well, it's about him trying to woo her.
Well, and him trying, yeah. He's got to know he's being used like a,
But he offered.
Like an old banjo.
He offered to bail her out of the situation because that is his goddaughter.
Yeah. So he's got to know. He's got to go into this eyes wide open.
Yes, he does.
And his opportunity, his secret little agenda here, or not so secret, is this is his way into trying to win her over, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And she's got to know that. So the setup here is terrific because you've got a marriage of convenience, one who's smitten, one who isn't. And how is that going to get resolved? Because he's got to overcome the conclusion she's come to that she's not marriage material. And she's got to overcome the fact that somebody loves me despite my crap.
Right.
Okay, great. Nice. It could be a romantic comedy. Okay, this is a very nice. Now we have a tone problem. But when her husband is implicated in her daughter's disappearance, she must race against time to save her child and her marriage. See, now go ahead.
Romantic suspense.
Yeah, I know, but you're going to have to kind of pick one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you have a very mixed tone thing here. What's the
goal is for her to save her daughter? So this is just one blip in that.
Okay, so how is? Oh boy, how is he implicated? Why is he implicated?
The woman who owned the house that she was living in was her fiance's aunt. His sister and her husband killed the aunt because they think they're going to get her money, but she really left the house to this woman and her daughter. So they kidnapped the daughter to try and get the woman to sign the house back over to them.
And how does this implicate her husband?
Oh, because they frame him, they plant like pictures of little girls, and he's arrested for her kidnapping.
Okay, what's the ticking clock? What's the race against time?
That they call her and say, come meet us, come alone, because they want her to sign the papers back over to them.
And where is he?
He had just gotten out of jail and realized that she's gone and is trying to find her. He's a detective, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt for just a minute, just because we're at the end of our hour. So Jeff said that he's happy to stay on a bit beyond the hour. If anybody needs to go because we're at the end of that's what we had slotted for the time today, then that's fine. At the end of this, this log line here, what we're going to do is get Jeff to do like a 2-minute quick feedback to as many as we can in the chat. So if you want to hang out for a few more minutes, we'll just do just a bit more on this one, Jeff, and then we'll
Yes.
move quick fire.
Okay, got it. So a mother desperate to save her sick child enters a marriage of convenience.
Yes.
Okay, that's how you drill all that down. You don't need to find a second chance at love. That's redundant. But when, so who's the evil person here? Who's the killer? Who's the killer?
Her dead fiance's sister and husband.
Okay, so when her dead fiance's sister this is the challenge she faces. When her dead fiance's sister implicates her new husband in the kidnapping of the sick child, it's a lot of words, but that's the setup. What's the terrible choice she's going to have to make?
Is she going to run off and try and find the kid on her own, or is she going to let her friends help her?
Okay, now we've introduced a whole new set of people. Now, who's her friend?
Well, her husband is a detective, so it's the people that have helped her since her fiance, who was also a detective, died. You know how they all look out for their own, and
Okay, but do you see what I just did?
what was that?
So a desperate woman enters a marriage of convenience,
Right.
to save her. But when her ex's sister, the words are not quite right, but the idea behind it.
Yeah.
Kidnaps her sick daughter, threatening her marriage, she must. The disconnect here for me is that if she's marrying this guy and then going to fall in love with him, that's like pretty pivotal. So he's got to be involved in this in some way. He's got to be part. If he's out of jail, then he needs to be part of the solution. But she doesn't know whether she can, if she knows these other people have been the ones who are really responsible, then the threat of over him isn't between the two of them. Like, she can't trust him. It's, is this guy going to get set up, right? So if he's out of jail, he's got to be a part of this. So she's got to make a decision about whether somehow this has to threaten. She's got to walk away from him to save her child, or try to get both. She said there's got to be some decision here she's going to have to make.
Right.
And see how this totally dovetails back into her soured attitude. I'm not marriage material. Now this is the thing that kicks her into, yeah, I want to stay married to this guy. We come full circle on her problem, which is exactly what you want to do in a story like this. Do you see what I'm saying?
So I have to make her decision.
She's got to do I sacrifice the guy who I'm actually finally damn falling in love with to save my kid or not? That's the choice she has to make. And she's got to solve that problem and win the day.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's no point in her having this problem.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Right.
I just have to figure out how to word it.
But that's how you have to target this. You got to get that other family in there. You got to get the threat. And then then it's pretty close.
Okay. I
Okay.
had when her family is threatened, she must decide.
Well, no, identify the system. You want to identify who the opposition is. So
Oh,
always
okay.
personify the opposition. So when her ex's, sister kidnaps her sick daughter and threatens her marriage, you can finesse that later on with the language, but
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of how you want to set the challenge up.
All right. Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Deborah. Okay, so now it's time for the quick fire round. Thanks for everybody that is still hanging out. So there's a few people that have rewritten their log lines as we've gone along. So Jeff, if you want to scroll to the bottom of the chat so that you're just looking at the rewritten ones there. Thanks for the people that have been working on it and submitting new ones. And we're going to keep you to a time. You've got 1 or 2 minutes per one, just quick feedback, quick reactions. Yeah.
I see Laslyn Clark's. I don't see anything else after Lisa's. I mean, after Debbie's.
Oh, really? Okay. I will send them to you. So let's start with Laslyn.
Here we go. Okay, there's a couple now. All right.
Okay.
All right, here's one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. If you're still here, why don't you repost them in the chat?
Yeah. Okay. Amidst the popularity of the poor mothering, as the cause of autism theory, self-doubting parents struggle against their dysfunctional families, societal ignorance, and their own inner demons to learn to trust in themselves and help their autistic child. Okay. Lots of loaded phraseology that doesn't tell me anything about the story. I don't know who the protagonist is. I don't know what the challenge is to their autistic child. I don't know who they're up against, who's going to get in the way of whatever it is they're trying to do. I don't know what their goal is other than helping their child. What does that mean? And why don't they trust themselves? What are they?
I was just going to say, who's personifying the popularity of poor mothering? Who's making them feel that poor mothering is positive?
I mean, I had to reread that a couple of times because I just I understand you're saying,
who's making them feel it.
Yeah, I understand what the writer's getting at, but our editor's going to read that line and go, So there's no story structure here. There's no story here. You just it's all set up. Okay, so that's my main advice is I go through this template. What's the world? Okay, the world of autistic children. There's the world. Who's the protagonist? Not a clue. What is the goal and challenge? Well, they're trying to help their kid. What's wrong? What's threatening the child? And then what's the choice? There's, if it's about trusting themselves, what don't they trust? And you've got to create the two poles at the end of the log line. They have to choose between trusting themselves and not trusting themselves, but you've got to be more specific about what that issue is. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you. Next one. Can you see Deborah Powell's? What can you see?
Born, 18-year-old Audrey. Let's do that one.
Oh yeah. Okay.
18-year-old Adira Delaney. Okay. First thing is you don't ever want to name your characters in the log line. Always say an 18-year-old woman or whatever. Okay. Don't ever use names. It's just the convention. 18-year-old Adira realizes demons are real and she was born to fight them. Okay. John Oh, join. Oh, there's Authorial Intrusion. Join our heroine in this urban fantasy as she struggles to stop the demon Caleb from opening the gates of hell, bringing hell to San Francisco and Earth. Okay. So this is all Authorial Intrusion here. You know, this is the sales pitch, right? So what you want to do here, contemporary urban, in a contemporary, you know, San Francisco, okay, or in 2020 San Francisco, a teenage young woman discovers that a demon is about to open the gates of hell. All right. So there's the challenge. And she's going to be the one to have to stop him. Right. So you've identified the demon opposition, but who's the human? Who's the human opposition? There's got to be a person in the story that's working with her. Maybe there is, I don't know. But they need to be identified. And then this is clearly going to be a story about a young woman who's, this is the Katniss Everdeen thing. Okay. This is, you know, Hunger Games, where she's learning her true destiny, right? I don't want to fight. I don't want to be a killer. I want to go off in the woods and live with my boyfriend. Leave me alone. That's all I want. That's what she wants at the beginning of the book, first book, right? And she ends up becoming the leader of a revolution, right? So this is a young woman who's denying her nature. And that's how this has to end. Does she own her demon fighting bad self, or does she just want to be a normal teenage girl? You know? No, I'm sure there's a whole lot more going on, but that's the essence of what you've got here, is a young woman who's denying her true self, has to embrace it, and in that, saving the world from hell. Okay, there you go. That's what you got to convey. That's the nut of what you have to convey in the log line.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Good. What else grabs you?
Oh, okay. Let's do this one. Julie. I'm just picking short ones. Sorry. Julie, 15 years after a life-altering decision, a woman's past shows up on her doorstep, okay, setting into motion an untangling of lies that will threaten not just her family's status quo, but their very safety as well. Okay. This is really a nice way into the hook for sure. But again, and you see how common this is. Loaded phraseology that suggests interesting stuff, but is more frustrating for the reader than tantalizing, because it doesn't tell us anything about what's really happening. Okay. What was the life-altering decision? Don't hold back. What does the the logline would be a woman haunted by her past. Okay. You don't have to get into the past, but we have to know about her a bit. A woman haunted by her past. You really caught me on, it showing up on her doorstep. It's like, whoa, that really got my attention. So that's the challenge. I would imagine that, when this thing or person or whatever shows up, all hell breaks loose. Okay, there's the challenge. Identify it, define what that is, because that's going to tell the reader what the stakes are. Okay, and it's a threat to their safety. Who is it? Maybe that's the opposition. Maybe that's the other core relationship in the story. I don't know, but once she deals with it, throwing the status quo into chaos, what is the decision she's going to have to make? She's going to have to overcome that haunted past, right? So what's the haunt? Because then you've got to decide, okay, what's the choice she's going to make? Obviously it's, endanger the family or save the family, but you got to define it emotionally more clearly in terms of what's the decision she's got to make. Okay. Like in the Jessica Jones example I use in the webinar, where I do the log line for the pilot episode of Jessica Jones on Netflix. Great show, by the way. You got to watch season 1. The choice she has to make is whether to stay or run. You know, and she decides to stay. You know, that's the action she takes. Okay. So here you got to do the same thing. So started off with a haunted woman, you know. Maybe you can say what the decision was she had to make. Is that you got me there too? It's like, okay, what the hell happened there? You know. So you got a lot of tantalizing things here, but I have to know more. Okay, so there you go.
Okay, great.
Okay, we'll do this one. You
It's
start to see
interesting you said you're just choosing short ones. Could log lines shouldn't be more than 1 or 2 sentences. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't want, if there's if they're really big long ones, there's too much there and that we have to parse. So I can't do that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing patterns already here in terms of how people are thinking about common thought process, which I find fascinating as a person who studies this stuff. Mm-hmm. How people have these common patterns of how they process their stories fascinates me, and that's what's informed me as a teacher, and as a person who helps people write, tell stories, come up with tools to guide those processes. You know, so that's all of what you're doing here has been really helpful to me to help you. Okay, in a world of magic, okay, there we go. There's the world that has faced a war nonstop, 4 creatures with nothing to lose, well, which means they have everything to lose, and too much blood weighing on their hands will play the emperor's game to save their land. Okay, you have condensed a tremendous amount of really cool stuff into a single sentence here. And you absolutely have the core here of a really fun log line. You got the world. There's a nonstop war going on, but what I want to know is what's the main line story? Okay, what is, one of the 4 creatures has to be your protagonist. You can't have all 4 of them. This has to be about one of them. Okay, and if you've already written a 900-page book with all 4 characters as your focus, you can get away with that in a novel because you've got the space to do it. And you know, George R.R. Martin with A Song of Ice and Fire gets away with it with 7 books. So you know, you can be done and done very well. But normally, you want to have a protagonist, a single person. That's the dramatic focus of your story. Okay, so one of the creatures needs to be, and then we need to know what, in the context of this nonstop war, what's the conflict this person's dealing with? Who are they up against? It sounds like it's the emperor. Okay. But maybe you've got a team story here where you've got these 4 creatures all learning how to work together. I don't know. But you know what I want to know more about, what it is one of these creatures is up against. What are the stakes going to be? And again, what's the choice they have to make? Okay. But you've got a very clear higher level opposition because you've got the evil emperor, right? Who's got some kind of game going. So there's a lot of suggestion that there's this really cool predicament that they're all dealing with. What is it? Okay, in 5-6 words, you know, and then how does that lead to a terrible decision that one of them has to make? My gut tells me you got that in here somewhere. Okay, this is really cool. I hope that makes sense.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
If you can get that line, you can get a log line.
Okay, great. Should we do 2 more?
Okay. Here's one. Richard Verlon. Whew. Okay. Richard, on a remote island, a restless former soldier, okay, got me thinking, okay, what the heck happened that he's not a soldier anymore? But he wants to be, it sounds like. On a remote island, a restless former soldier struggles to learn the essence of karate. He should be doing jujitsu under the abusive instruction of a reclusive master in order to end his struggle with PTSD. Okay. So this sounds like a martial arts movie, which is great. The reason I said jujitsu, I do jujitsu. So I used to do a lot of other martial arts, but settled on that one. Okay, so his struggle is with PTSD, correct? I want to know. I want to know what that's stopping him from accomplishing that he wants. I know he wants to get over his PTSD, but you don't want this to be a disease of the week story, okay? I mean, kind of a thing. I'm not trying to diminish the importance of PTSD, but from a narrative perspective, he needs to want to get over PTSD because he wants something else, okay? He wants the girl, he wants the job, he wants whatever it is, okay? But the PTSD is getting in the way. And he has been told by some, cryptic person somewhere that he must go to the island of whatever and study with, hookah in order to find the secret of what's keeping him trapped in PTSD. Okay. So that's basically, I mean, you've got a very, straightforward, situational kind of story here. Of a guy who is in pain, who has to get out of that pain by going through the crucible of the training. Okay. It's like that, it's like the Pai Mei scene in, Kill Bill 2, the terrible tutelage of Pai Mei, right? I'm going to break you in two for your own good, and you're going to come out of this stronger than you went into it. The people love those kinds of stories, but I'm going to want to know, I mean, I don't know what the adventure is going to be. If this is going to be a novel, I don't know, or this sounds like a movie, but what's the adventure? The training is going to get boring after, a chapter of, hitting boards. Okay. So what else is going on this island that's going to help pull this guy out? Is he going to meet somebody? Are there other people on the island? There's got to be more here in terms of what's the adventure. And then the choice has to be whether to risk not healing and living life or doing it. What's the trade-off here? What's the sacrifice? What is that choice he's going to have to make? You got some juice here for sure. I always think like this is very blood sportish, with Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's got that feel to it. So martial arts training under reclusive masters is always fun, but there's got to be a little bit more going on here for the reader to know that there's a personal story beyond the PTSD. Okay, so that's got to be part of what he has to overcome, his challenge, and he's got to survive training in order to ultimately get to a place where he can get X. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I hope you found that useful. Richard, one last one, and then we're going to have to call it a night. We're already nearly half an hour over time.
Yeah.
Call it a day or a night, depending where you are.
Oh, here's a rewrite. Okay, let's do this. So Laslin Clark rewrote this. Okay. In a modern society inhabited by elven folk, fantastic, who can't share land, food, or even courtesy, the white elf ambassador seeks peace. But his path brings everyone to the edge of a world war. Interesting world for sure. I'm not sure how. So I don't know whether these are elves in hiding in plain sight, or whether this is a fantasy world that's just a modern society somewhere else. So I'm not. You got the world here, but you got to be clear about, are we on Earth? Are we in somewhere? Are we in the fairy realm? Or, what's going on here? Not sure. And of the elven folk, who's your protagonist? You see how you keep coming back to the same stuff, folks. Same questions. Look at the machine. We got the world. We need to define it. Who's the protagonist? Answer the questions. Okay, which elf? Okay, once you know who it is, what is that person going to have to do? What's the challenge? What's their goal? I don't know. Sounds like there's one who's seeking peace. Okay, is that the protagonist? Okay, then who are they up against? Who's the opponent? Who's trying to stop the white elf from getting peace? Okay, and then what is that choice decision the white elf is going to have to make, assuming it's the white elf who's the protagonist? Okay, but clear stakes, edge of a world war, fantastic. But I don't know these pieces, so you can't. There's no narrative line here that I'm following. You're just throwing up story elements on the wall to see what sticks. Okay, but it's definitely a great start, great world. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff going on, but you've got to now focus that and answer these questions. And there's only a few that you got to answer. Okay, these last two really. Okay.
Okay. Great. I think we need to call it. There. Thank you, everyone, for sharing everything. And again, I'm sorry that we didn't get to everybody. Again, we're going to have to do a part 3 after all of this. If you find it helpful, please let Jeff know in the chat there, because he can have a quick look at that. I can see lots of people saying that they appreciate it. And Jeff, thank you again.
You're really, very welcome.
I just feel like I learned so much, and by the end of it, I think, oh no, I see what you're missing. Where's the opponent there? I'm like,
see, that's what I'm going for. I want all of you guys to be saying the exact same thing. It's like, oh, okay, that's what they're missing. See, the way you learn this is by doing it over and over and over. That's why having these up online on YouTube and stuff is great, because you can go in and you can experience those learning moments with other people who are brave enough to sit there and let their stuff get pulled apart. And it's I mean, that's great you're doing this. It's so important.
Well, why don't we, if anybody's interested, maybe I'll put a thread into our Facebook group tomorrow, and everyone can add loglines there and feed back on each other and call each other out if they're missing a key decision.
Yeah, play with it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And everybody can work on it together. So have a look for the Pro Writing Aid Facebook group, and I'll put something up tomorrow. And then you can all work together and figure out what's missing. Because it's so hard to look at your own, isn't it, and see what's missing, because you know it.
I have people, I mean, I do this professionally, but I have like 2 or 3 people I go to with all my stuff who set me straight, and I miss stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So we're all in this together, honestly.
Yeah. And it is an art, and it's a thing that you learn and that you practice, and the more you do, the better you get at it. And now you'll be able to look at each other's and see which ones, where the holes are and what you're missing.
Yes.
Great. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. Really had fun.